I thought, I should leave. I should go back to India. We will figure out what is it that we will do. There was no idea for free will. So I came. Rahul also left at the same time. Then we spent almost a month or two to figure out, okay, now what next? So it always started from the family. What you see in front of the label is very different than what is on the back of the label.
And then very different from what's actually inside the bottle.
Exactly. I guess so far we are in some 2,000 stores. In next 2 years, we can easily target anywhere between 15 to 20,000, right? It's a misconception, to be honest. I think the percentage of spend required for R&D eventually is much lesser that you need for your marketing. Investing in R&D is much better ROI than always doing it in marketing. When the conversation with HU started, I think 2 or 3 months before that, we started our Series B process. We run the ship. Yeah. So
there's no change in that.
No change in that.
Even though ownership has changed completely.
Yeah. So we operate from Jaipur. We'll continue to operate from Jaipur. I think it's more about, there's a difference in the cap table before versus now. Whatever we can do, say next 5 years, with them we can do it in 2 years. We needed money. And by then, of course, we never had a lot of savings, right? So we asked our parents, and you'll not believe that, they said that, we can mortgage the house, raise a debt. And actually that is how our journey started. You can buy a 5-star rating on any e-com by paying 30-40 rupees. That's true. Most companies parties. It's happening.
It's prevalent.
It's prevalent. Everyone does that. We never did it.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Young Turks Podcast. I'm Shereen Bhan. If you've been watching the show for the last 23 years, then we brought you stories that often inspire, also make you look at the world of entrepreneurship with a different lens, but very often make you wonder how and why entrepreneurs succeeded in what they decided to do. My guest today is part of a duo that decided to start a company in the middle of COVID, in fact, right before the second wave of COVID, and decided to get into the beauty and personal care space, a highly competitive space. And in a short span of 4 years, what they've managed to achieve has been quite remarkable, hitting a run rate of almost 500 crore rupees. And what is even more remarkable is that they've managed now to sell the company while still retaining operational independence within the Unilever conglomerate. Joining me now to talk about the minimalist journey is Mohit. Mohit, many thanks for joining us here on the Young Turks Podcast. It's wonderful to have you with us. So that's where I want to really start with the how. In 4 years to start a company, and this is, by the way, for those of you who don't know, this is their third venture. The first was apparel, the second was personalized hair care, which eventually positioned or pivoted itself into the Minimalist. And Minimalist, of course, has been the big success story that it has. How do you go from starting a business in the middle of COVID to being able to take it to become a 500 crore brand, perhaps one of the fastest growing D2C brands in the country?
So firstly, thanks for inviting. Very happy to be here. When you start, you have no idea where it will be. I guess, for most founders and, entrepreneur, it's a very risky bet. The percentage of, startup that succeed and get to a very good scale, the percentage is very small, right? So, if I go back again in October 2020 and can see that, we will be in 24, right? It's impossible. You actually start with your belief in the category. That is this the right category? Is this something that you think will gonna evolve? Is there a market for it? And in that market, how can we differentiate and have a unique positioning? So actually it started with that.
But I want to pause here. How does a chartered accountant and a chemical engineer decide to bet on the beauty and personal care category? I mean, how does this happen?
No, so like you said, our journey started with free will. And in that, the entire game was purely tech. So we thought we came from tech and product background. And, we keep on hearing that every individual is different. They have different requirements. They have different needs. But the products are very standard. If you can actually personalize that, we can create a big difference. Now, traditionally it's not possible, but through now the evolution of tech, it is, right? So if you can, figure out basis your lifestyle, your needs and all, write a code, and then that code decide what should be your product,
Yeah.
create each of those products from scratch, then we know it's working, right?
Mm.
So then you're not thinking largely from a formulator or something from beauty. We were honestly thinking largely from tech side.
Right.
And that is honestly how we started. 2 years later, when we're thinking of expanding this entire proposition into skincare by creating personalized skincare, that is what we were doing. Uh, but then we were all impacted by COVID. Nothing was working. We also got like 3 months to sit at home, figure out what next. Because while personalization is very interesting and add a lot of value, the challenge is distribution.
Right.
You're not able to leverage, your e-com, retail, or anything. So I guess in that period, we thought, why don't we try something else rather than putting multiple active into a bottle for your personalization? Why can't we do very problem specific solution for an individual and let them create their own personalized by maybe buying more than one product?
Yeah. So let the consumer decide.
Let the consumer decide. And that is how you can even, figure out your distribution also. And yet you are very close to how we started. Parallelly, again, when you go deeper into any category, you also understand the good, bad, ugly side of it. So from outside, it all look, very
Good.
interesting, all good, hundreds of people in R&Ds and larger companies and all that happening. But most of the companies take customers for granted. What you see in front of the label is very different than what is in the back of the label.
And then very different from what's actually inside the bottle.
Exactly. Regulations is not very stringent. Even today, if you go to any large beauty platform, look at maybe top 10 sunscreens, send them to an independent lab, 70% of those products will not get the claims that they are reporting. Their SPF value will not be more than 15 when they're saying 50, right? So that is where we are. So we thought that, while all this is happening, we invest in the tech, but actually we can create something which is very transparent and honest. Because, as a customer, we all need that.
Yeah.
And just focus on product, not on brand. There will be many customers like us who are more functional, who might be able to relate with our story. So actually that's how it all started. On one side, solid distribution. On other, working on those values that we did not like being in this industry. So it started as a pilot, and it grew faster than we expected. And after that, we had to shut down Freewill and focus completely on Minimalist.
So the pivot from Freewill to the Minimalist, first of all, how did the name come up?
So we were thinking, what to put in a bottle, and the conversation was going on in a team meet, and we think that everything which is relevant for a consumer, we should only use those ingredients. We should remove all the fluff, no marketing stuff, no fragrances, nothing. We would want to keep it very minimalist. And this word came 2 or 3 times in the conversation. And we thought, hey, it's a nice word. Let me see if the trademark is available. And it was. And we thought that, if you're talking more about, using minimalist as a philosophy in the product, the name goes well with it.
Just call it Minimalist.
Just call it Minimalist. So actually, it just came in a conversation. And that's when we thought that it goes well with the brand philosophy. So that is what we should name it.
Cut to 4 years later after you started the Minimalist. And I'm sure that along the way, there probably was interest coming in from potential suitors. Unilever Ventures, of course, is an investor. So I would imagine that journey from Unilever to HUL was an easier journey to make. But the decision to exit at a time where things are going very well for you, where you've got growth, you've got profitability, you've got a clear runway ahead of you, the decision to take the call to exit then, how did you make that choice?
It wasn't an easy one. And again, before this conversation, many a time, some other large company wanted to meet us to explore synergies.
Did you meet them?
No. Most of the time the answer is no, because we were not honestly looking for any M&A or any such partnership, right? Because again, one, we knew the businesses at a very nascent stages, and we know it better than anyone else, right? So any such collaboration or partnership will actually kill what we have built.
Yeah.
When the conversation with HU started, I think 2 or 3 months before that, we started our Series B process. So we even hired a banker. We started meeting investor because again, till then there was no discussion on M&A. It was not even our roadmap. But around that time, we started talking to our investors just to understand what is it that they are also looking at, what we also need. So the sweet spot, well, what we felt in India is somewhere between this $300 to $500 million when it comes to M&A. Anything beyond that might be more challenging. So if we raise money 3 years later, given where we're expecting the business to be, the option would be IPO.
IPO, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you are signing up for that for next maybe 10, 15 years as a founder. If you don't raise, M&A is a opportunity, right? Or we might raise maybe after 2 to 3 years if there is no M&A, and can run on our own because you're not looking for a lot of capital. But when conversation with HUL started,
when did the conversation with HUL start?
It happened in October, towards end of October, and we felt that there's lot of synergies we can draw from them. So after a while, see, numbers beyond a point doesn't excite anyone, right?
Yeah.
While we understand the digital part of it, they know the retail offline businesses far better than us, right? And if we truly believe this is helpful for consumers, it's important for us to be present, right? We can reduce our chances of taking wrong steps and all, and can whatever we can do, say next 5 years, with them we can do it in 2 years. Second, maybe after a year or so, when we started doing some bit of international, we started getting a lot of feedback that the made in India will not work. Not a lot of distributors are very comfortable selling our product. Some even suggested that why don't you set up a small facility, say in Singapore, the market, and only for international, you kind of create made in Singapore, you import from some other.
That's interesting. So you were told that made in India will not work.
Yeah.
Why not?
See, we don't have very good reputation in beauty and personal care when it comes to made in India. Not too many brands have been able to position themselves globally, right? We have done well in pharma, but not much has happened in it. And we always felt that someone has to do it anyways, right? Yeah. So we never sold anything by routing from any international. Every product, even till now that we ship, is like made in India. And we started seeing a lot of traction. So like our market share started increasing. We are in Southeast Asia. Our ratings on Shopee, Lazada in Malaysia, like 99% of the customers rated us 5 on 5. And we felt that the perception is maybe in some distributor, some individual.
Right.
And actually, if we deliver on the promise, we are able to build this
trust.
Build the trust, right? So that beauty for the world is something we can achieve. And again, we felt that with HUL we can do it faster, we can do it better. There's always a shelf life for an idea. If we miss out on some of those opportunities today, will that opportunity exist 5 years later? May or may not, right? And I guess as a founder, at some point in time, you always feel that, say, 10 years from now, if I can see that, this is a household name globally, we are well present, we are much larger organization, doesn't matter who has larger shareholding, I think I'll be more happier versus again, what if this would have happened, and living with that feeling that, I think we optimize purely on our returns and then thinking what is right. And I guess the last part of it is at some point time you start to disassociate also. So, with time you feel that I and Minimalist are same, right? That is my identity.
Yeah.
But then you feel I like creating product. I'm operator by heart. At some point in time, if I'll find something else to do interesting in life, I'll do that. We don't know we'll succeed or not, but that is a life that I enjoy. So I guess, all those things, if you put together, you start to feel it kind of makes sense for everyone. I think it's makes so much sense for us. It made sense for investors because they are not now worried about the returns and IPOs and all. It made sense for, I guess, HUL. And very few deals happen in which all three parties are very happy.
Absolutely. Very few deals happen where all parties involved are happy. But it's very interesting what you said, because this takes me to a conversation that I very recently had with Sabyasachi Mukherjee and his decision to actually sell to Kumaramangalam Birla and to the Birla Group. And he said something which, I'm kind of relating to what you're saying. He said, I didn't want to become a selfish entrepreneur. I didn't want my hubris to decide what this brand should be 10 years on. And I felt that this is the best thing that could have happened to the brand, because it then has a legacy outside of me, an identity outside of me as well. And so he decided to sell at the point that he did. And you're saying essentially the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, see, at some point in time, you have to realize that, you cannot have this entire control, right? Even if it's an IPO, at some point in time, you have to let go of it. You have to have someone else to run it on your behalf. You have to, institutionalize it, right? So we can do the same setup ourselves, or we can work with someone and then synergize and do it better. So you have to let go of your personal ego. Again, I said, and do what is right for the brand, do what is right for the business.
Well, it's also interesting because what you worked out as part of the arrangement with HUL is that you pretty much will continue to operate as an independent island within the large HUL framework. Now, how did that come about? And was there agreement on both ends on that working forward as well? Because, integration has been a challenge for many deals previously. So how did that come about?
It was an easy decision. We needed this to happen. They were also aligned that this is how it should work, right? We should continue to operate where we are doing. We should continue to do what we have been so far. And they can give all the support that they need. So there's an entire ecosystem. We can go and say, hey, we need help in this area. They'll make it happen. They don't want to interfere. So I guess.
So you run the ship.
We run the ship. Yeah. So
there's no change in that.
No change in that.
Even though ownership has changed completely.
Yeah. So we operate from Jaipur. We'll continue to operate from Jaipur. No changes in team. Nothing. So I think it's more about, there's a difference in the cap table before versus now. And then beyond just a financial investor, lot of support around us that we can go and use. But it's completely on us. What is right for the business, do that, use that support, continue to grow. And I think they have been very nice in terms of giving us that flexibility to manage it the way we have been doing it.
But, flexibility is one thing, but to give you complete control on how you run the business, what choices you make, what you do as far as the product portfolio is concerned, all of that remains the same. All of that continues to be your decision, your call.
You have to trust again, you can't document every small thing that, okay, which product you are creating in next 24 months, what we should do, what we should not, right? I guess a lot of discussion happen in terms of how we see the brand evolve and then how they also see the brand evolve, right? I mean, usually thing only happen when you both think in the same manner. If I have a different way of growing the business and they have a completely different way, then it won't work, right? And I think the reason even this deal happened is because I guess as a group we are thinking in a very same manner. There were hardly any area where we had disconnect, that either in terms of retail, how many stores we should have, either in terms of international, what is it we should do next, either in terms of the product, what we should and what we should not. I guess knowing what you don't want to do is more important than knowing what you have to. And then getting the same comfort that, these are the areas we also don't want to from their side was again, very comforting for us. So rest is again then trust.
And it's going to be an interesting experiment even as far as HUL is concerned, I would imagine. But so what does this now do in terms of turbocharging your plans? Because as you pointed out, there are things that you can probably do now in 2 years that it would have probably taken you 5 to 7 years to do as just the minimalist. So give me a sense of how you turbocharge the growth ambition and the growth plans for the company from here.
I think the 3 very easiest growth lever, one, as I said, is our offline expansion. So with them, we know which store, what data, what is relevant, not relevant, then exploring this entire piece, understanding, for the next 2 years, how many stores are relevant for us, how to plan. They already have an on-ground team. We can leverage a lot of those things, right? So I guess so far we are in some 2,000 stores, and we took almost 12 to 18 months to be here. In next 2 years, we can easily target anywhere between 15 to 20,000, right? 10 times more than what we have achieved. And all that, again, can be done very seamlessly. Second is international. While, of course, we started working in these markets, we have some bit of retail partnership. But every new market you enter, you have to, again, figure out who are the right channel partners. You have to have those relationship and all.
And that's
And
where
that
the
cycle
Unilever system will kick in.
And that cycle take anywhere between 4 to 6 months, right? Again, with HUL, given they are present in most of these markets.
Yeah.
And now, because of their prestige portfolio, even we know, say, which channels have performed better, say, for Paula's Choice, K18, other brands, then what should be our distribution strategy? All that is now easily accessible. And then there's an on-ground team with whom we can go, take support, talk to those partners, and again, launch faster. So that again is the second. And third is the global R&D centers. Whatever we have been doing in terms of our own clinical studies, test, evaluating ingredient, they have been working on multiple things.
Yeah.
So we have a easy resource we can tap in. So it again makes so much sense for us in terms of consistently deliver what we have been. So I guess those are the honestly 3 areas where we see a lot of synergies. Beyond that, operationally, from again, given their scale, they have the lowest rates in terms of logistic, warehousing, procurements, whatnot.
Yeah.
So all those will come again with time, but growth largely from the first three.
And manufacturing continues to happen out of your plants.
It continues to. So we are evaluating a few more options, because again, at some point in time, our plant will reach a capacity. We are already at some 70% utilization. Setting up a new plant, or HUL will also have lot of facilities. So can we use some of their facility? Shall we invest in the new one? That we are still trying to figure out. The one we are running, that will continue to be functional. There won't be any changes in it.
No change there. But from a customer's point of view, and I think this is a dilemma that many independent brands face. When you become part of a larger conglomerate, do you lose that specialist tag? Do you lose the specialist proposition? Because then you're one of, a large grouping of brands, so to speak. How will HUL be incorporated, if at all, as far as the messaging to the consumer is concerned?
No, I guess with time, most of the companies have realized that you have to keep it as a specialist brand, because world need more specialists than generic brands, right? And that is honestly the reason we even grew to where we are. And not just for HUL, like say Ordinary, it's part of Estee Lauder now, for almost, I guess, 2 to 3 years, maybe more than that, right? Paula's Choice is part of HUL. You have not seen any changes that may have happened. So I guess they know the brand, they know what Minimalist is, and I don't think they would want to change any of those, right? So
let these brands operate independently, and that's the best way of sticking with the consumer as well.
Actually, for consumer, see, now the way I see it, right, because of procurements, because of scale and all, we have more money which we can deploy back into R&Ds, which can put more into the product. So from now, from here on, right, we are actually thinking this will improve the product quality further. So instead of thinking that will anything go wrong, which of course till the time we don't prove, people always have suspicion.
Yeah.
But I only see this as an improvement in our product, in our services, in our distribution, than the other way around.
So is this now a 2-5-year arrangement? Is there a time limit that's been put in place, or is this something that you will again decide as things unfold?
No, so there are two things into it. One, of course, the remaining 10%.
Correct.
So that will change hand after 2 years. But our role, again, we love what we do. We are here for at least 2 years, and beyond that, I don't want to say things that I don't know, to be honest. We will see how it evolves. if we still find it challenging, if we think we are able to contribute the way we have been, we'll continue to be here.
And then maybe come up with another plan altogether.
Yeah.
Are you starting to get the pangs of starting up again?
No, I mean, as I said, I always wanted to be an operator, and I'm getting all that excitement right out Minimalist. If things changes in future, my next role will also be an operator, right? I don't think
You're not going down the investor route,
I'm
which
not
is
investor.
which is what everybody seems to be doing at this point in time. All founders are now also angel investors or setting up
Yeah.
their own VC funds.
You have to figure out, what gives you that kick,
Huh.
right? Doing things is something that always excited me. Of course, we would love to support some startups. We can't do everything on our own.
Yeah.
So if I'm excited about some opportunity and we feel that is something we're not looking to pursue in future, and I can support the founder in any manner I can, we might make some investments. But I guess in my heart, I'm a operator, and that is what I'll continue to do.
So what do you intend to do with all of this money?
No plans yet.
No plans yet. Fixed deposit for now.
Yeah, I think that's for the wealth advisors to figure out. But yeah, okay.
And I asked you that as a joke, but honestly, when you do have, it's a problem of plenty at this point in time, right? With the money that comes your way, how do you think about money at this stage in your life? How do you think about the end use of money at this stage in your life? How does it change? How does it change your life at this point? I mean, does it change your life in your head?
I think it matters, what was your end goal when you started? And honestly, this never was an end goal. We never could have expected this will happen 5 years later, right? When we started, the first milestone that we wanted to hit was that how can we earn, say, 2 to 3 lakh a month.
That was the goal, 2
That
to
was the
3
goal.
lakhs a month.
Yeah, and we did, the entire math, both I and Rahul, that how much we need, because we are living in the family house, so there was no rental, how much we need for food, how much we need for our kids' education, how much we need for our parents. And if these 3 things are done, we can run it forever. There's no pressure to go back in our corporate life, right? When that happened, anything on top of it
was a bonus.
Was just a bonus. So this deal or this number doesn't change anything. It doesn't. We are still what we were. Those who know us well, they are same. I think those who don't know us that well, I think those have changed. But that's about it.
Are there more people claiming to be your friends today than previously?
Not really. But I think, people start to feel, whatever you have been saying, they start to take your advice more seriously.
Seriously?
They think you are very smart now. I feel like, I was saying like a week or 2 weeks before, still take with a pinch of salt. I don't know everything. I have my own doubts. I have my own learning processes. I have my own questions. I talk to people to get my own problems solved.
What gave you the belief that you had a right to win in this market? You're up against not just other D2C players, but you're up against, global companies. You're up against Indian large incumbents who have the capital, who have the distribution muscle, the distribution power, and existing brands in the market. What gave you the belief that you had the right to win in this space?
See, on day one, of course, we planned some strategies and we thought, what is it we should do to differentiate, right? And none of those, of course, give you the complete confidence that these are my right to win. It evolved with time. So, when I see the market in last 10, 15 years, or maybe more than that, right? Era before 2010 was an era in which distribution was the mode. So most FMCG companies and all, launch a product, with a big branding budget, you hire celebs, go on TV, and then you have 300, 400,000 stores where you can distribute. Creating a brand in that era would have been very challenging if you don't have the distribution capabilities. Then came e-com. They created level playing field for distribution. So now 25% at least what I know other customers who buy online beauty and personal space, right? And that 25% users are available for everyone. Uh, and the algorithm support everyone. So even if I have a budget of a lakh versus someone who's spending 100 crore, it works in the same manner. It's a great, level playing field for, new companies and the larger ones also. And in that time, I've seen that, people who are more agile uh, and able to adopt faster to the customer's need, those companies started coming up. So if say there's a search on Amazon, someone has a product for it, right? And they realize bigger companies will take a year or so before they're able to launch, and by then they will have a head start and able to capture that need and then continue to evolve from there, right? So focusing on trend, be faster, and lot of brands, not just in India but even globally, came in that era. When we started Minimalist, we felt that while distribution is all taken care of, most of these things in terms of agility, in terms of marketing, will also be commoditized.
Right.
Most companies work with the same 3P. Their product portfolio remains very similar.
Yeah.
You have the same set of content creators, influencers with whom you can also work.
Yeah.
Your differentiation probably will be how deep you are in your investment in capital and ready to burn to grow this space, right? So money will only be the moat, and we don't think we were made for that.
Was that the chartered accountant that that kind of drove that philosophy?
I always felt that a business should be run like a business. It has to make sense. And if your differentiation is just your marketing, someone can come and disrupt you, right? And off late, I started to feel that from now on, you will start to see companies which will win this market because they have better product. So while other two things like the ecosystem, marketing and all are again commoditized, distribution is a commodity, the product is a differentiator. So we always knew that we would want to differentiate on product. We invested a lot in our R&D. Like I think yesterday I was speaking to someone that when we had maybe around first 30 people in our company, out of that 15, 18 were the folks in R&D, one person in marketing, which was me. I was managing it. Few in our customer support, and then maybe 2 guys in finance to manage the accounting and all. So we were completely different in terms of structure. I guess those were the honestly, 2 areas. We thought that if you're able to do better in product, if you're able to be very honest, and don't make those as a value printed somewhere on the wall of the office, that hey, we are a transparent one, live those values every day. And if you can do that, we always felt that that would be our right to win.
It's interesting that you talk about the focus there as far as R&D is concerned, because this is the lament that everybody has with the Indian industry in general, that there is not enough spend on R&D, that there is not enough innovation that's going on. Yeah. So as a startup, to have bet on that, to have actually spent most of your capital on building a R&D team that delivers the goods, that's a pretty bold, courageous bet to have made at the start of your journey.
Actually, it's a misconception, to be honest. I think the percentage of spend required for R&D eventually is much lesser that you need for your marketing. So it's a very good trade-off. I read a quote that you can create an average product and spend rest of your life selling it, or you can create a better product and let people do your marketing, right? So where we want to put our money, we want to put in R&D or product, or we want to continue to spend disproportionate amount in marketing. If you actually see it in a 5-7 year horizon, you'll always feel investing in R&D is much better ROI than always doing it in marketing.
That clearly is reflected in the way that you've been able to grow the business. But, going to 500 crores in the last 4 years, and this is not something that we've seen even the large companies who have their own D2C brands be able to do successfully without burning cash because you're profitable, without spending the big bucks on marketing, without going down the influencer route, which is what we see other D2C brands do quite successfully. How did you start to get customer traction? How did you start to build customer love? What was that X factor that worked for you, you think?
So I think a couple of things honestly help. While when we were starting, we thought that this is a right space to be in. But we felt it will take a lot of time in terms of educating customers about the actives and all. But one thing we realized is even the small segment of customers who knew these actors and this space, that percentage was big enough for a startup like us, right? Then I think the overall ecosystem. So we did a lot of work in creating educational content through our social media, where we told people about these actors, that acids are okay and all those things. A lot of customers became the evangelist. So see, everyone today is a content creator, directly, indirectly,
Yes.
right? And if you like something which you think is worth sharing, you will do that. And if you can give that as a hook in your product, people will be more than happy to do it on their own, right? You don't have to pay them to say about it. And then even on content creator, so many dermat create content, many skincare content, influencers create content, right? Even if we never had a paid collaboration, but if say their followers are asking about, hey, what is niacinamide? Most of them were educating it, right? So while a lot of educational content was being created, people were aware about it. Brands like ours also got an advantage from it, right? So I guess everything came together and supported.
So are you now an expert on niacinamide, alpha arbutin, kojic acid, whatever else is on the hot active ingredient list? How clued in are you?
I'm probably more like an informed consumer. Rahul, he's my co-founder. He knows these things better than me. And then, of course, the R&D team, they're the expert. So again, I'm just like anyone else in this room.
But again, the choice that you made to decide to go down this route, which is the active ingredient route, which is a relatively nascent new space, not just in India, but globally as well, as opposed to the natural space that people seem to be veering towards at this point in time. Was that something that you thought about in terms of the route to take before you decided to go the minimalist way? Was that an active consideration? Should we do the natural way or should we take this route?
See, it was confusing. And I think most research around that time said that the market is clearly naturals.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is where the trend is, right?
Exactly.
But again, if you'll ask someone who does not know this space, I take natural as a word purely for safety. So say if I go and talk to my mom that, hey mom, do we want to use salicylic acid, say, or something made from neem? The word acid will be scary for her. And she will say, I would prefer something more natural. I think that does not mean she prefer natural over these active. I think in her mind, she's saying more about, I would want something which is more safer for me.
Correct.
And I think that is where probably it was little blurry, right? Second, we always want to do something which is more clinically proven. And these actives, while in beauty, these are new, but in pharma, dermats have been prescribing these for so many years anyways, right? So like benzoyl peroxide is not new. Doctors are writing these products for last 20-30 years. We have been consuming it directly, indirectly anyways. So there was a lot of research done on these. And initially, again, while we were investing in R&D, we wanted to follow something which is already been done. So if you can use some research, we know some work is already been done, it's a good starting point for us. While in natural, not a lot of work has been done. And again, you can see that every now and then in 2 years the trend changes completely. Today people are saying that one new natural active is amazing, it does this and that, and 2 years later it's completely gone. The same is not true in actives. So salicylic is been in market for more than few decades, right? Same with vitamin C, same with others. So that was for us, again, when we talk about efficacy, following this route was easier because we know there's a proven research.
Correct.
And then we can do some work on top of it, make it far more effective. So choices, again, given what we wanted to create, were easier because of it.
How inspired were you by what was happening around you? And I know that a lot of people do the comparison between the ordinary as well as minimalist, and certainly the packaging does have a lot of relatability in that sense, and they don't do the marketing fluff either. Were you inspired by the
Very
ordinary
much.
story?
Yeah, again, had they been in India, I always say that there was no need for a brand like Minimalist, right? And I always was surprised when we're doing Freewheel that look at this brand, they're doing some really good work. They are very transparent, they're honest, there's a lot of effectiveness in terms of studies and all that they share, right? Why no one is doing it in India? Of course, we are doing something in hair care, not in skin, but it always used to excite me, and I love the philosophy of the founder. Uh, so when we were starting skincare, it was an obvious extension that we so much relate in terms of those values, and bringing something in India by focusing more on product was I will not say happen on its coincidence, right? Uh, I was like a fan for the brand itself.
A fan for the brand, but then how did you ensure that while you take the values that are core to the ordinary, but you also ensure that you create something that's differentiated? You ensure that you create something that is not just imitation, but really stands out on its own.
So I think with time you realize the needs of customers in different market are very different. We also live in a very different climatic condition, right? So a same product won't work in each of those market. And I'm not saying that Indian skin is different. Again, that's a marketing story most of people say, but say the concerns.
So it's not.
It's not. It's.
But
Again,
we're more prone to things like hyperpigmentation and so on and so forth.
I think your concerns would be different. See,
Yeah.
if I talk about say aging, right? Someone in India age in the same manner, they need the same product, and say product like retinol will work in the same manner.
What is the difference, by the way?
It's a different. So I think retinol take two steps to convert into, I guess, retinoic acid or something.
Okay.
Retinol just take one. But again, coming to the point, I think say pigmentation, rightly mentioned, is a bigger concern in India, right? Versus say someone in US. And being in this market, we know we have to be far more deeper into such categories. So today we have like 3 products for pigmentation, while most of the US companies will have maybe one. On other hand, say rosacea is much larger problem. You don't see those problems that often in India. So we don't have any product for that. Later we also realized that we don't want to be just a serum brand,
right? And
we started expanding our portfolio into the maintenance and the other category in skin, right? From cleansers to toners to SPF and other. Now we are into even scalp and hair care, and recently launched even a baby care. So while the initial similarities were more about the values and few product, then you have to figure out your own story, your own journey. You also know at some point in time they will come to India.
They are all in India.
They already in India. Yeah. So unless and until you feel that my product are better and I'm able to solve the customer's requirement better, you can't compete. So some part of work started then, and then of course with expansion, it also put us in a space where we know that we are a more holistic skincare or hair care solution than a serum kind of a brand. So
what's also interesting, and I don't know how many people know this about you and how both you and Rahul got started, but you're both brothers from Jaipur who had no background in business. Of course, you experimented with a bunch of startups from apparel to hair care, personalized hair care, which eventually led you to the Minimalist. And the decision to actually start up had more to do with the fact that the two of you wanted to work together and continue to work together. So the building out and all of that was an afterthought, but it was more, how do the two of you spend more time together, right?
Exactly. So actually we started our first venture, which was an apparel, purely to stay together. So we grew up in a small house, and I started focusing on studies around 11th or so.
Before that, you were not interested?
I wasn't, to be honest. I wasn't taking things very seriously. If I'm not wrong, I might have failed in 1 or 2 subjects when I was in 9th standard.
Might have. You did or you didn't?
Borderline probably, yeah. And I felt that I don't understand much of it, right? I was always more in sports, just like any other kid, right? I mean, your passion is cricket, and we used to spend a lot of time on everything than studies. And I think around 10th or 11th, I realized that how much effort our parents are putting in giving us good education, and some of that we are taking for granted. So that's when we become more serious. And around that time, of course, we had to cut ties with everything outside of our life, so that we have more time on what really is important. So in a house, if you get an hour or so as a playtime, right? My entire time was with Rahul then. So maybe in our within the house, you play cricket, you play some other sport, you figure out
Yeah.
things together. So we actually grew up more as friends and brothers. And when I was with Credit Suisse, I know my options were either to move to UK or within Southeast Asia. It was largely Singapore or Hong Kong. Rahul around that time got a pre-placement offer from one large FMCG company in India. And we can imagine that, how our life will be. We will meet maybe once a year on the festivals and all. And we felt that, this is not something that you wanted to do it, right? So starting a business would be the right thing. It wasn't startup because I'm talking about, 2007 or 8. Terms like startup, entrepreneurship were not even commonly used. So we felt ki let's do a business. We will figure out what it is. And at the right time, we will go back to Jaipur so that we can spend more time with family. And that is how the journey started. And before Freewheel also, so after that, the business got acquired. I was with Cardico for a long time. Then Cardico wanted to expand in international market. So I moved to Indonesia. And both I and Rahul were talking, and I felt that, okay, the reason we came to Jaipur was to spend more time. And now I'm in Jakarta, you are in India. And again, we are meeting not very often. And this is not something that we wanted from our life, right? So I thought, I should leave. I should go back to India. We will figure out what is it that we will do. There was no idea for Freewheel. So I came. Rahul also left at the same time. Then we spent almost a month or two to figure out, okay, now what next? So it always started from the family, then solving some
the
consumer
business
problems
plan,
or
the
the
business plan came later. First was about how do we ensure that we're in the
that
same.
That has always been the priority.
Really? So you're inseparable.
Yeah. I mean, again, I love spending time with the family. While of course, business is now the first love. But if I'm not working, for me the go-to is the family. So whatever time I can spend with my parents, we actually live in a joint family with some 10-12 members in the same house. Rahul, his wife, kids, my wife, my kid, my parents. Actually most of the weekend, my sister, my niece and all, they're all into the home. So some 12-14 members, you can imagine the chaos. But yeah, I mean, that is
I can certainly imagine the chaos, but nothing minimalist about the family there. So it's a large Indian household. But I want to understand from you this approach to saying, look, we'll figure it out. And this doesn't come very naturally because we've grown up in an environment where there has always been this very conscious attempt at having a plan of whether you get into a job or there needs to be a plan A that you're working towards. And when I hear you speak, saying that, okay, I'll leave Jakarta, come back to Jaipur, or give up Cardico, and we'll figure it out. Where did that courage come from? Because often failure or the fear of failure or the fear of uncertainty holds us back. I mean, were there concerns that the family expressed, for instance, saying, "Kya kar rahe ho yaar?" I mean, like, stick to the jobs that you have.
Yeah, I mean, you are right. See, you have your own doubts whether this will work or not, and then you're worried about your family also. And unless until you have full support from there, it doesn't work. And our family have been very supportive. We knew that, say if we'll take 1 or 2 years to figure something out, that much time we can give to ourselves. If it won't work, I guess we can always go back to our corporate life, do something. But not doing it now. I don't never wanted to, grow up with that regret that yeah, exactly. What if, we could have done something and we never took our chances. So when I came to India, I told Rahul about it. Rahul has always been very supportive. He said, one person can't do all. So I'll also leave. So he left. And we needed money. And by then, of course, we never had a lot of savings, right? So we asked our parents. And you'll not believe that, they said that, we can mortgage the house, raise a debt, And actually, that is how our journey started. So we raised around some 80-90 lakh by mortgaging the house. Uh,
That's again a very unusual thing for Indian parents to do, mortgaging a house to fund a startup, or a business.
yeah, they
It's
did.
it's a pretty brave thing to do as well.
Yeah, they did. Uh, Again, they have been like lot of sleepless nights. Uh, Many time you question yourself,
Mm.
was this the right thing? Because everything was working out very well in a corporate life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I was managing Southeast Asia for Cardeco, had equities and all not, right? Uh, the challenges in a business were largely taken care by some other
Somebody else.
somebody else, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
hiring. You don't have to worry about product. Everything is
Hmm.
already there, and you can be that entrepreneur within that group
Yeah.
and do what you like.
Yeah.
Versus worrying about every small thing. Uh, but yeah, I think that is actually the story of, I guess, every founder. You go
Yeah.
through the journey. You have no idea it'll work out or not, but you take your chances.
What has been your learning process, especially uh, the feedback that you get from customers, how you've utilized that to actually build the business, build
Yeah.
the brand, refine the product portfolio as you move along? What has been the learning curve and the learning process for you?
So, see, I think in the first few that we did, our focus was that we want to create good product, right? And I think every founder starts from that. And in that process, sometime different thing excites you. You say, oh, this is happening in this industry. Again, this is cool. This is good.
Mm.
Whether I should do it or not, I don't know, right? Because the brand is not very sharply defined,
Mm.
and we faced a lot of those challenges in Freeville. You come across some posts on even social media and think, oh wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Does it make sense for us? And you don't have an answer because you don't know what the brand is, right? So when minimalist happened, I think one big learning we had is define those values.
Mm.
So while everyone focus on product, and you have to, but you should be very very sure what this brand is and what it should mean for a consumer. And don't create a 10 list thing that okay, we are this for everyone or so and so forth, right? And then just live those values every day.
Mm.
It should not, again, I said, be some post on a wall. So in our case, it was simply that create clinically proven solutions and then be transparent with our consumers. Now, most of the time in our office, whenever you have questions that you need to answer, just look back at these two values. You will find 90% of the answers. So like when K-beauty became popular, a lot of people started asking, even an investor, that do you want to do slaying mucin? It's popular, yes. Will it give a lot of advantage in terms of business? It does. Is it clinically proven? It's not.
Mm.
Then the answer is simple. It should not be part of Minimalist. Shall we work with influencers? If I'm paying someone to say good thing about us, how is that transparent? And if you want to really live those values, don't work with them. Then work with the community. We actually need someone to say that, hey, it's working, right? Can you work more closely with the consumers? So actually, I mean, the biggest learning is this, that
So that kind of sets the boundaries. In a way, the
Yeah.
values set the boundaries
Yeah.
for what the business should or should not do.
Correct. And I think more closely you define those boundaries and more sharper they are, and you actually have to live those every day. It with time even help in terms of decentralization or decision making. You can't take all the decisions, but if your people also know that okay, these are the parameters I have to look at every now and then. Like my R&D team never come and ask me to create something which is popular or trending just because we should
But
jump into it.
isn't there a fear of missing out? Because that drives a lot of decision making. And especially when we talk about investors, I would imagine that there has been that pressure. You talked about, for instance, the K-beauty trend. How do you retain the confidence to say, no, we're not going to go down that path? The fear of missing out is a real thing.
Again, one learning is you should be ready to say no to most of the things around you. It's never about the right decision you have taken. It's more about how many wrong decisions you have taken in the process. Uh, out of those 10 opportunities, 9 are not relevant. Be very, very sharp for your consumers. You should be something for someone, right? I mean, you can't be like, everything for everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
And no one needs that. I think markets are deep enough, at least now in India. We're not talking about like 2010 or so when say actives or this part of the business is very small. You have to unnecessarily expand your TAM, and more so now. So while of course the Indian market is growing, we are even expanding internationally. The entire GCC, Southeast Asia, US, Europe, I think those are much more deeper. I don't think we are there yet in terms of TAM. So I guess, again,
the headroom for growth is significant.
It has been, and that's true for most of the businesses, trust me today.
But the other decision, and you spoke about this briefly in the beginning, was that you don't believe that throwing money at the problem is the right approach. But again, it's something that we've seen in the ecosystem, and some companies have managed to live through that and now have started to focus on profitability. Others have folded up.
Yeah.
This decision to say we're not going to go down this road of inorganic customer acquisition, of buying customers by way of discounting and so on and so forth. Take me through what was going on in your head at that point in time when you decided that that's not the road that we want to take, while others may be taking it.
I think few things in it. One, as a founder, you also need to believe, is this the right thing or not, right? I never felt that's the right thing to do it. Once you have a PMF, at some point in time, business should be operated like a business. And you can very clearly see those things, right? How my retention is, how much my marketing spends are. At some point in time, are we generating profit or not? You can lie about all those things in your own mind. And again, it's very easy to fool someone else, but there's no point fooling ourselves. So we were clear that, if the basic fundamentals do not make sense, I think it's important to go back, fix those things. Like, you say, if the bucket is leaking, there's no point continuing to pour more water into it, right? Fix the bucket first. And we have been consistent in that. Even in terms of when our product launch, if you feel something is not working out really well, there's no point putting a lot of marketing dollar around it, right? Spend more time fixing it, and a time will come and people think, oh, I love it. And then you'll start to see the snowball from there happening, right? So every now and then, if you're attracting, say, X number of customers and 40-50% of them stay with you next month, the compounding is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Second, you also need to understand your own strength. We never felt that, we are the one who can always be in the market raising capital. And if we can't do that, you have to figure out how the capital will come, right? And if you're profitable, the channels like banking and all also opens up, where the cost of capital is much lower compared to the cost of capital that comes from
because you're not parting with equity.
Yeah, exactly. And then last is also your own personal aspirations, right? You're building it for a short run. That, okay, I have to be at a particular number in 5 years because I'm expecting an event to happen, which is in my own mind, an IPO or an M&A or so, right? We never had any of those planned outcome after it, right? We felt that, I would love to do this as long as it need. Now, if that is 5, 10, 15 years, I'm all game for it, right?
Yeah.
Then you start to just reduce a lot of those noise.
At an entrepreneur who's looking at getting into the D2C space today, and we were just talking about the addressable market, what have been some of the other learnings about the Indian consumer? What would your advice be to somebody who's looking at getting into the D2C space at this point in time, and on how they should go about addressing needs, how they should go about building at scale?
See, one thing that we have seen a lot, people are way more smarter than we think, right? And that is not just a phenomena only in your metros or tier 1. The same level of awareness even exists in smaller towns. Someone living in a tier 3 is also following, say, a dermat in New York.
Yeah.
And this person knows exactly
so the internet has changed that, has been the big leveler.
Exactly. So the flow of information that used to take a lot of years earlier is now very seamless. I know exactly what these are. And many times we think that people don't know about it, but people are smart enough to understand. So don't take them for granted ever. Second is, I think there's a lot of noise around it. in any space, you will see multiple things are happening. Start with a niche, focus on solving some specific problems. Uh, Once you have enough comfort or trust in that, then expand into other. Like in our case, we started with problem solution. Then your maintenance product moisturizer. So go with the painkiller because that is where defining or differentiating with someone else is easier than the so-called vitamins, right? So good to have is more challenging space, but the problems are easy to target. Those are difficult also to solve. But if you do, you immediately have the trust. And always focus on customers. I can't emphasize more on it, right? I mean, I see this as a statement everywhere.
That's the most abused thing, right? I mean, which company doesn't say that it's customer focused, customer obsessed, customer centric?
Yeah, so, most of them say, very few follow. And for a new startup or a founder, many time things look very overwhelming, that there's so much of a competition, so much is going around. At least what we have seen is uh, a very few are doing actually the right work. Rest is just noise. Ignore that. Do what is right for customers. Focus on right categories. Don't worry about the time, and most of the thing will fall in place.
So, break this down a little bit further for me. When you say that you've been customer centric and that's different from the claim of being customer centric, what have you done differently? What have you done that you believe speaks to the truth of living that value?
See, you have to do hundreds of things. Uh, Let me start with, say, e-com. There's a industry in India. You can buy a 5-star rating on any e-com by paying 30-40 rupees. That's true. Most
And it's
companies
happening.
It's happening.
It's prevalent.
It's prevalent. Everyone does that. You can see a product which is recently launched, like 2 weeks back, and within 2 weeks you can see it has 100 5 stars ratings and all, right? Many times you can simply see the date of the listing and the rating. It won't make sense, right? 100 users who are buying can't come back and give the rating. Usually one person does that, right? So till the time you don't have maybe 10,000 or so, only a fraction of that will reflect. We never did it because, again, for your team, you have to be that role model of doing the right. Again, is it transparent? It's not. Is it right to the customer? It's not. Don't do it. We recently launched a product for our hair care portfolio. It's a anti-dandruff, and because there was some manual filling involved, few caps were not tightened properly. So when the product got delivered, in some product we felt the cases of leakages and all. If you go to Amazon today, you can see maybe our rating is like 2.5. Now it's very easy to buy some, fix it, and move on. But not a single team member have asked us to do it because they know this is not the right thing. And again, I'm just giving you small examples, right? We know with time, when people will buy the product, the larger customer will see the right thing. Eventually, the ratings will change. If it won't, we'll have to figure out something to make it work, right? Influencer marketing, we spoke about it. This entire industry where you can have ads, not ads, by even giving collabs. People are saying good thing about you, that hey, this changed my life and all. Everyone does. It's a smart thing to do. Is it a right thing to do? At times it feels very questionable to me.
Could be a tactical thing to do.
Yeah. See, I
An
think if it
opportunistic
is,
thing to do.
it's an opportunistic thing to do. Is it the right thing? In my mind, I always feel it's not. See, till the time someone is giving an honest view and asking you to pay for my followers, because I'm taking that space, and then giving all the pros and cons of a product, that's the right thing to do, right? Because I'm using a media. For me, it's just a media, right? But if even this entire narrative is also being sponsored, I'm saying exactly word by word what has been someone asking me to do it, right? Again, for me, honestly, I may be more old school, but doesn't feel right to us. If you go on a site, buy a product, write a rating, you will see immediately the rating has been published. We don't moderate. Many companies do. So their rating, say on Amazon, would be closer to 3.84, but on their own D2C, it will be like 4.9. Talk to our people on our customer support. We don't recommend more than 2 serum, because again, we feel
So
that
there's no 7-step routine.
it does not make a lot of sense, to be honest, right? I mean, if you're a new customer, start small. It's more of a marathon than a sprint. You can't fix all the issues overnight, right? Let them get a comfort. At times, by overexposing to these active, you can do more harm than the good. So everything that goes through our team is monitored. That not more than 2 products is ever recommended. So I mean, those small things, when you continue to do it, you think that these are the thing that made the brand, and the brand is the values. And if the value is being honesty, I think you have to just work on every touch point that you have with the customer. So I guess again, there's no rocket science. Live those things from a consumer. It's easy to say, hard to live.
That's true. It's easy to say, hard to live. You're absolutely right about that. But those are some of the very interesting things that you've shared with us on what it takes to be able to draw in customers, but also what it takes to retain customers. It's a very competitive space. But as an entrepreneur, and you talked about the tough times, you talked about the challenging times, the painful decisions sometimes that you need to take. You've had your brother for company, so that perhaps provides you some comfort. It provides you some support. But speak to me as an entrepreneur, as a founder, of being able to cope with some of those challenges, of how you find resilience, how you find strength, how you find courage, how you find the will to continue to move forward.
You need a support system. There's no easy answer. There would be lot of sleepless nights, as I already mentioned. There would be time in which you don't feel like doing it again. You think nothing is working out, and there would be multiple such times, days, and it's not just the initial part of it. It will continue to happen, right? When you're down and there's someone who can pull you up, and you can find that support energy from another co-founder, or if not the co-founder, someone, right? I mean, who may be part of the journey. It helps a lot. Otherwise it become very lonely journey, because you can't share everything with everyone. Say initially also,
as much as you believe in transparency.
yeah, I mean, see, if again, think it from the team also, right? You can't every day and go and say, hey, I'm not confident about it, what I'm doing. Will they be confident every day coming to office, putting their heart and soul, doing something because they believe in your vision, your mission? So you go through all those times. You really need someone with whom you can talk, who can inspire, who can make sense of it, who can just cheer you up, beyond just the
who
work.
does the cheering up, you or Rahul?
They both have to do it for each other, because very few instances would have happened when we both were not feeling doing it now, right? So when I know he is going through a bad phase or a tough time, I know I can provide all the support. The same for him also, whenever he feel. Because we live in a joint family, I think there's a lot of support anyways from family. And then I think on advice also, as we started to grow, we were honestly very lucky to have right investors. Pawan from Unilever Venture, he has been very supportive. I know I can talk to him without being as a board member or something, that I have these doubts, I have my questions, can you advise me, right? Same goes for Salesh Lakhani from Peak 15. Then my own small ecosystem of founders. Like, I mean, I've been in touch with Amit from Kar Dekho. So I guess, all these, whenever you feel you need someone to just have a conversation, at times you don't even need answer. You just want someone to just listen
to you.
They do. So that help. So
but you were talking about how you've been inspired by The Ordinary and what they've been able to do in India, from other founders, companies that have been able to be successful. Have there been moments of inspiration that you've drawn from other founders, from other companies?
I think there are many who are doing good work. And again, I may not know everyone's financials. I'm just saying largely from consumer. I like what Shashank is doing with Whole Truth. Again, bringing a lot of transparency. I think in general in industry, the entire Tata Group and, the companies built on principles, that values, and you feel that even if you're like 10% there, it will be like a big thing for me. Uh, uh, Atomberg, they have changed the entire space in their own category. So I think there are many who are doing. We just find those inspirations, see their journey, go back to work.
So what is, before I end, I mean, now that the baby has, in a sense, changed hands, what is the vision that you have for the Minimalist 5 or 10 years on?
Can it be one of the most loved or trusted brand? I'll not put a number to it, uh, because again, as I said, we never chase numbers. If you can become a brand, which I say that, globally, when people say, if I'm thinking of Active, I'm thinking of a company which I can trust, and this names come on top of a mind, right? Rest will follow. So doing all those things for each of those markets again, wherever it's needed, continue to double down on the very, very basic thing. At times we glamorize by saying this is very complicated. It is not. It's very simple.
You
the
have to keep
product,
it simple.
you have to keep it simple. Right people, right product, do what is right for customers. There's no fourth thing. Just these three. I think everything beyond these are very easy to manage, which is your capital and whatnot. Uh, so just do these three things. This is what we are planning to do.
These three things and keep it simple. So, you said that you don't have a plan B at this point in time on what happens perhaps 2-5 years down the line. But is there even remotely a seed of an idea that is kind of somewhere there that you're thinking about at this point in time in terms of what next?
No.
No? all about the Minimalist at this point in time.
Yeah, it should be. Again, I think we are at a very interesting stage right now. Next 2 years would be very exciting, and I think I'm very, very focused on understanding a lot of, again, as I said, we never did retail, so it's a new learning experience for us also.
Yeah.
We never did a lot of international at scale, so good learning experience, and I'm more excited about it.
So what is your skincare routine?
I follow, again, which I advise. One, don't fix what's not broken. I have a very basic one, so I follow with a cleanser, then a 5% niacinamide,
Okay.
and then a straight away sunscreen. I have a slightly oily to combination skin. I don't like moisturizers much, but if I'm able to follow these in the morning, I'm good. At times, I try to use a retinol, but honestly, 2 to 3 days in a week, if I'm able to do that, I'm happy. I'm not consistent, but that's about it.
That's about it. Well, it's been such an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very
Likewise.
much for keeping it real, for saying it like it is, and for sharing the story and the journey of the Minimalist. We wish you the very best of luck with your
Thank you.
future endeavors and with your plans to take Minimalist global and make it one of the most loved and trusted companies in the world. Appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for listening.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of the Young Turks Reloaded podcast. From all of us here on the team for now, many thanks for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV18. There's a lot more coming up right after this. We'll be right back.